Merry Christmas, everyone. We have a lot to get into today. Previewing the Ravens and Texans game tomorrow on Christmas Day and their new wide receiver, Diontae Johnson. We'll be going over different paths to an AFC North title for the Ravens, talking about this MVP race and how it is much, much closer than it was. All of that and much more in today's episode of the Flock Rundown.
Ravens Flock. Flock Rundown is the place to be.
Motionless brainwaves attempt to swim their way to sense, can't tame the untamed.
Appreciate you, Ray. What's up, Ravens fans? My name is Ryan, and welcome back to another episode of the Flock Rundown. We got the Ravens Texans tomorrow already. I feel like this game just flew up out of nowhere. It's kind of crazy with all the holidays and everything going on, but here we are, Christmas Day game tomorrow, and it's already an interesting game. We'll talk a little bit more about the specifics later, but the Texans made this a bit more interesting by claiming former Raven Diontae Johnson off of waivers, so he will now be a Houston Texan. I doubt he's going to play tomorrow. I mean, that would be a very quick turnaround, and I don't know how involved you can be if you just got there the day before, but regardless, they might want to try and get some intel or whatnot. I don't even think Diontae Johnson probably knows a ton. If he knew everything about the Ravens offense, maybe he would be on the field a little bit more, but whatever. We're moving on from Diontae Johnson. It's just interesting that he's going to be a Houston Texan. I was hoping we get to play against him. I just doubt that he's going to play tomorrow, but who knows? If we see the Houston Texans again in the playoffs, then I'm sure Diontae Johnson will be out there. Can't wait. And then the Ravens went and claimed a Houston Texans wide receiver, Steven Sims, who you might remember from last year in the playoffs, having that punt return for a touchdown. So the Ravens kind of shot back on the intel department. I don't know if Steven Sims is going to have a role, but they probably just got him for one because we're about to play the Texans. You never know what information you can get. We might see the Texans in a few weeks in the playoffs. And then also Steven Sims is a decent depth wide receiver, special teams, punt returner, kick returner, backup. I think that having another option there or somebody that we can kind of groom into that role for us. But Harbaugh did confirm that Desmond King is still the Ravens punt returner. I was worried about that maybe changing after he had 2 fumbles in that Steelers game, but Harbaugh reiterated his confidence and said that he has to hold on to the ball, but he's our best option there right now. So we will see Desmond King still out there. And then in other news, the LA Chargers, aka LA Ravens, signed Eddie Jackson to their practice squad. So he has a new home, and the Chargers continue to pluck almost every single former Raven. So not really a big deal at all, but I just thought it was interesting to point out that another former Raven is headed to the Chargers, and good luck over there, Eddie Jackson. We've been balling since his departure, so yeah. The last thing I want to talk about before we turn our attention to the game tomorrow is this MVP race and how much closer it got. We haven't spoke about this since the last video I made about the MVP race. Lamar Jackson was well behind Josh Allen in betting odds and just kind of media narrative, at least national media narrative. But after that Steelers game and after Josh Allen struggles in the Patriots game, Lamar Jackson is starting to pick up steam. The betting odds have gotten way closer. Most places have Lamar at plus 300, plus 400 right now. It was plus 700 the week prior. It was plus 1,200 at one point. So this is shrinking, and a lot of these national shows are starting to say, okay, we got a real race here. Lamar goes and balls on Christmas Day tomorrow, puts up big numbers, gets another win, and all of a sudden, this is a 50-50 race, which I have been saying that it should be the whole time. I don't think that Lamar Jackson has done anything to be well behind Josh Allen. One of the only things that you could argue for Josh Allen is team record. I totally understand they got some big wins this year, and I know that plays a big role. They beat the Chiefs, they beat the Lions, they have a 2-game better record than the Ravens. Totally get all that. But the Ravens are stacking some big wins right now, too, and have had some big wins throughout this season. And if they go out there and ball on Christmas Day tomorrow, and Lamar Jackson, who has way better numbers than Josh Allen, by the way, Lamar's going to have 5,000 yards this season. He's already got 40 touchdowns, only 4 picks. I know people are like, oh, Allen's got a lot more rushing. Yeah, well, okay, that's fine. Let's look at the total number. Lamar still has more total touchdowns. Like, what's it matter whether it's rushing, passing, whatever. Lamar Jackson's got 37 passing, which is way more than Josh Allen. And I think the craziest stat to point out of all this is Lamar Jackson has the 4th best passer rating in the history of football right now. I mean, Lamar Jackson has a way better passer rating. He is way more efficient. His completion percentage is higher. Every stat you can look at, Lamar Jackson is having a better season. And the Ravens are starting to stack some big primetime wins here. I'm just saying, I think this race, if Lamar balls tomorrow, swings in Lamar's favor. I actually think that Lamar would be the favorite with a dominant performance tomorrow. And I know the MVP is not a huge deal. Lamar Jackson already has 2. I know he's not concerned about it, nor should he be. I don't think the team should be concerned about it. I totally get all that. I know it's an exhaustive thing to talk about, but as fans or someone who's in the local media, talking to you guys and making YouTube videos, I feel like I need to continue to point out that this is a race. That's why I started really chirping about it last week, because I'm like, man, these betting odds are ridiculously swayed. The national media narrative is very unfair. It's only one-sided. They act like it was a closed case. So I felt like I had to speak up as much as possible to kind of get conversations rolling, and I'm not the only one, but I'm saying there are a lot of conversations that are starting to happen like that. And with a dominant performance tomorrow by Lamar and the Ravens, I think that Lamar is the favorite because Josh Allen doesn't have any more meaningful games. So what's going to be fresh on voters' minds? It's going to be these huge wins that the Ravens are having right now. Lamar Jackson already has Josh Allen in every statistical category, so you can't be like, oh, Allen's having a better year stats-wise. No, he's not. So there's just not a lot of argument, I think, for Josh Allen over Lamar. Unless Lamar loses or something, then it's definitely going to be Josh Allen. But I'm just saying this is a very close race, and with some more dominant performances, I think this goes to Lamar. Let's turn all of our attention to the Ravens-Texans Christmas Day game. We'll talk a little bit about the division clinching scenarios. They're not going to be able to clinch the AFC North tomorrow, but the Steelers do play the Chiefs before the Ravens. So if the Steelers lose to the Chiefs and the Ravens win out, we win the AFC North. It's slam dunk. It's that easy. If the Steelers beat the Chiefs and the Ravens win out, that we need them to lose to the Bengals the following week. The Steelers, if they win out, we can't win the AFC North no matter what we do. And then if the Ravens lose to the Texans tomorrow and the Steelers lose to the Chiefs, we would need the Steelers to then again lose to the Bengals. So if we lose to the Texans tomorrow, most likely, if we lose at all the rest of the season, most likely the Ravens are not winning the AFC North. So I would say, to make it simple, the Ravens need to win out. And then if the Steelers lose one of their next 2, we win the AFC North. It's going to be really tough for the Steelers to beat the Chiefs tomorrow. I think that is a very tough game for them. We'll see how healthy they are in that game. If they're fully loaded and at home, they definitely have a good shot. I mean, the Steelers do have a good team, but I'm just saying the Chiefs are rolling. They're getting healthier. I know that they suffered a Chris Jones injury on defense. That is a big deal, but their offense is getting better. They're adding more and more weapons. I think the Chiefs beat the Steelers tomorrow, and that would be huge for the Ravens, but we'll see how it plays out. Like I said, they'll know the outcome before this Texans game, which is obviously going to be extra motivation. Players can talk about they don't look at the scores or whatever, but they're going to be very well aware of the outcome of the Chiefs-Steelers game, and if the Chiefs win that game, the Ravens are playing for the division, and I think that's some extra motivation that is going to carry them to a victory tomorrow. But the Texans won't be easy, man. This is not an easy game. They have some weapons on offense. CJ Stroud is an excellent quarterback. I know people are calling a sophomore slump or whatever. The Texans are banged up. They got a ton of injuries, man. They're losing guys left and right. It almost feels like the Lions in a way. I know the Lions is mainly on defense, but the Texans are losing a lot of weapons. I mean, they had an insane receiving core with Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, Nico Collins, and now it's just Nico. I know they added Diontae Johnson, but like I said, I'd be shocked if he has a big role in this game tomorrow. But Nico Collins is a stud, man. He's a freak. He's going to win a lot of battles against our corners. I can already see it now. I think that is the main guy that we need to worry about. We obviously need to stop the run. Joe Mixon is a talented back. I'm not as worried about that because the Ravens have the number 1 rush defense in the NFL. We always stop the run. It is leaky sometimes. I think teams haven't committed to it as much because earlier in the season we were pretty vulnerable. Our pass defense was pretty vulnerable, so I think teams were passing a lot more, and therefore our run stats were super swayed. So I definitely think that we can get gashed a little bit, but regardless, it's still an elite run stopping unit. Our defensive line is very strong. We have great linebackers, and the Texans offensive line's kind of banged up, and CJ Stroud is one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the NFL. So I think that the Ravens front is going to be able to get consistent pressure, hopefully get him on the ground a couple times, but I think that they're going to disrupt what Houston wants to do, and they just don't have enough weapons downfield right now. I think they did, a fully healthy Houston Texans team. I'm worried. I am definitely concerned about them putting up quite a bit of points on our defense. But the way our defense is playing, they're getting better week after week after week. I would say our run defense is probably a little less dominant than the stats show, but our pass defense is way better than the stats show, because since we have made that safety switch from Marcus Williams and Eddie Jackson to Kyle Hamilton and our Darius Washington, this defense has transformed, and it's been 4 straight weeks of just nothing but progress. So I think the Ravens defense is going to put some pressure on Stroud. They're going to stop the run, or at least slow the run down for the most part, and I think that they're not going to be able to consistently put up points. I definitely think Nico Collins is going to get a touchdown and get his, and he's going to be a tough cover, no doubt. But when that's the main threat, I just feel like we can put some more attention there and neutralize that threat, and we'll get enough stops in this game where they're not putting up 30 points. And then moving over to the other side of the ball, the Texans defense is no joke. Their front is very strong. They get home with 4 guys, kind of like Pittsburgh, kind of like Kansas City, Philly. These fronts, I wouldn't say they're quite there, but like they're one of those elite units. They're a top 7 unit in the NFL, in my opinion. And I think that the issue, again, which is always what the Ravens offense runs into, is can we block? Can we block a strong front? Can we pass protect? I think the run game, we're going to probably run more zone read than we do power. We switched last week against Pittsburgh, and it worked incredibly, and it makes so much sense. Coach has talked about this a bunch on his channel, and the Ravens linemen are not built to just be power run and dominate the guys in front of them. I know Falele looks like he should be, but he's not, and then McCary's too small. He gets tossed. He's not a strong guy anyway. Linderbaum is also small. I love Linderbaum, but he's not going to constantly just move your Chris Jones and Cam Haywards, and it just doesn't work that way. He's too small. So we're better at zone read running. And we saw that against Pittsburgh last week. We neutralized that strong defensive line, and we went zone read. The line blocked it a lot better, and Henry went crazy. And I think we'll see a lot more of that. I think we're going to run more zone read, and Henry's just going to find those holes and make guys tackle him. And I think that Houston, as strong as their defense is just not going to be able to completely stop the run game. And even if Houston does sell out defensively and stack the box and commit fully to stopping the run, Lamar Jackson's playing the best football of his life right now. We got receivers that we've never had. Zay Flowers, 1,000-yard receiver right now. I'm not sure if he's going to play. I know he's been missing practice, but Harbaugh said he's optimistic that he will go. It's a shoulder injury that he's dealing with. He was in a sling a few days ago, but I think that's precautionary. Same way Bateman was in a boot, a few days ago, and then he goes out and plays fine. So I think the Ravens are going to be healthy. I don't think that anyone's going to miss. But regardless, the point is Lamar Jackson has a lot of weapons. I didn't even bring up the tight ends and Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. And I just think no matter what you do, it's a pick your poison offense. If you do sell out to stop the run and stop Henry, Lamar's going to be able to run. Lamar's going to push the ball downfield. He's got 40 touchdowns and the 4th highest passer rating in NFL history right now. I mean, Lamar Jackson is a weapon, and the Houston Texans know that. This is what their coach had to say.
I think Lamar is playing some of the best football he's played. Like, he's definitely jumps off the tape as the best player I've seen this year. Talk about an MVP. He's definitely the MVP in my mind, just for what he's doing, not only run game wise, but throwing the football, the accuracy, the decision making. Like, he's playing unbelievable ball right now. So it's going to be a really tough challenge for us this week.
So while I do like the Texans defense, I think Derek Stingley in the secondary and their defensive front is strong. I think the Texans are going to get some stops and give us some problems. I just don't see the Ravens being consistently stopped as much as Houston is on the other side of the ball due to them being so banged up, really. I think this would be an absolute shootout if the Texans were fully healthy. I think that they would be able to throw on our secondary, but as they stand, I think our defense can get more stops, and I think the Ravens' offense is rolling right now. The only thing that can hold the Ravens up is penalties and turnovers, I feel like. If the Texans are punching the ball out and we're fumbling and not taking care of the ball, or we're having a lot of holding penalties or just miscues, mental miscues, guys downfield. We've seen so many things throughout the entire season. The Ravens are the most penalized team, but we've been better with it. We've definitely been better. We only had 2 penalties, I think, in that Steelers game. So the Ravens are headed in the right direction is what I'm saying, as long as they don't revert back to some of their bad games that they've had this year and just have a lot of miscues and mental errors. I think that they will win this one. They are the better team in this matchup. Houston's also not really playing for much. They've already clinched the division, and I know that they obviously want to build momentum themselves and keep going, but I just don't think that they have the same fire that the Ravens are going to have coming in there fighting for the AFC North still. So I got the Ravens winning this one 31-24. I think that the Ravens are just the better team. They're playing for more. They're healthy. That's a big deal. I'm not knocking the Houston Texans at all. I'm just saying they're without a lot of key players on their roster, and they continue to have injuries, and it just is hard to continue to compete at the same level you were when you were fully loaded. And the Ravens are fully loaded right now. So I just think that is a big difference in this matchup. But that's it for today, guys. Let me know what you think about this game. Drop your score predictions and just bold predictions in general about how you see this game going and playing out. I know this isn't a normal full preview episode where I got like the hype intro and it's just all Texans Ravens. I kind of morphed it with some updates because I had made a video since the post-game episode of the Steelers game 2 days ago, and there's a lot to talk about, so I wanted to kind of mash everything into one episode. And this game feels like it got here out of nowhere. It feels like we just played Pittsburgh, and then all of a sudden it's Christmas and we're playing again. But I can't lie, I'm going to enjoy watching the Ravens again already, especially on Christmas Day. The entire world's watching. We got a Hard Knocks episode 4 tonight as well, so a lot of Ravens stuff going on, a lot of football, a lot of holidays and family and friends, and wishing you guys all a Merry Christmas. And hopefully the Ravens come through and bless us with a gift tomorrow to be an amazing Christmas if the Ravens get a win, especially if they get one in like dominant fashion. Lamar goes crazy and gets a 3rd MVP. I mean, that would be a cool way to celebrate Christmas. But regardless of what happens in this football game, just enjoy Christmas and the holiday with your family and friends, and just remember why we're all here, man. But I appreciate you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Flock Rundown. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Merry Christmas. Go Ravens. And I'll let the greatest linebacker in the history of the game take us out.
Ravens Flock. The Flock Rundown is the place to be. My man Ryan has been a lifelong Ravens fan since he was born. The Flock Rundown. Nothing gets better than waking up and wondering how high we can fly. Tune in.
Motionless brainwaves attempt to swim their way to sense, can't tame the untamed.